All right, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to another We've Read the Documents live stream. Your host, John Briston. Thank you for being a subscriber. If you want to support my work, buy me a coffee / We've Read. If you want to subscribe to my work, search We've Read the Documents on Patreon, Odyssey, and Substack. Substack gives you the most access to my content because you get my written work. My fellow brother in Christ and I, Jeremy Stone, have a Christian podcast, By Their Fruits. You can subscribe to that on Apple iTunes or Spotify or wherever you find your podcasts. Hope everybody's doing well out there. All right, so this stream will be about the Heritage Foundation absorbing the Abraham Accords Peace Institute. Okay. Worlds are colliding, worlds are mixing. You know, I'm not necessarily a fan when stuff like this happens. It makes me feel very weary. Leery and weary. Just to talk about, the Biden administration did not stop Trump's Abraham Accords. The Biden administration continued Trump's Abraham Accords. It was never done away with, okay? So again, if the Biden administration lays up the ball for the Trump administration to dunk it in, this would be one such example of that, okay? Now, we know that Biden has made previous statements in the past that he is a proud Zionist, okay? So here we go. This is from July 9th, 2022. Biden is building on the Abraham Accords, part of Trump's legacy in the Middle East. President Biden travels to Israel and Saudi Arabia next week, his first trip to the Middle East since entering the White House. And while the president has been eager to criticize a range of his predecessor's policies, he's fully embracing one key pillar of Donald Trump's Middle East policy, the Abraham Accords. Those deals were broken by the Trump White House in 2020 to normalize relations between Israel and a number of Arab countries, including Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and Morocco. It was a huge rupture from recent history in which Arab nations have made it clear it would not negotiate with Israel until Palestinians received an independent state of their own. In other words, the Arab-Israeli conflict was tied to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and one could not be resolved without the other. But the Abraham Accords disconnected the two issues, and that framework has been embraced by the Biden White House. Okay, so he continued it. Okay, now, Biden did not grow the Abraham Accords, okay? He really had nothing to do with it as far as making more countries sign on to it or for it to increase this so-called, if Trump is the Antichrist, the covenant of peace with many nations, right? So all Biden did was just kind of like, you know, you're cooking a meal, but you had to stop halfway through. So instead of finish cooking it because it was an emergency, you put it on low, just so it stays warm and viable, but not cooked all the way through. And now let's say if Trump is coming back to finish the meal, right? We'll see. Okay, but I just want to show that Biden still continued the Abraham Accords, okay? So, I should just be pushed forward here a little bit. It should be here. So here we have various quotes from the Abraham Accords Peace Institute. And one of those said quotes on here would be a quote from Biden. But let's read Jared Kushner's quote here about his importance of the Abraham Accords. On the Abraham Accords, I believe that we have planted some seeds now, and I think that short-term returns have been great, but I do believe the long-term returns are going to be extraordinary, okay, which would play the role of Trump planting the seeds before his administration comes to an end with Jared Kushner, and then, you know, those seeds growing but not necessarily completely bearing fruit. And then, you know, maybe long-term returns, we're going to see that during the second Trump administration. Okay. And so, again, I don't believe Jared Kushner is the false prophet. I believe it is likely Elon Musk. However, Jared Kushner is on my list, and he would be second on my list for false prophet. Okay. Of course, Jared Kushner, a member of Chabad Lubavitch, the racist Jewish supremacist ultra-Orthodox organization. And here we have President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. call with Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed, May 4th, 2021, underlying the strategic importance of the normalization of relationships between the United Arab Emirates and Israel, and expresses full support for strengthening and expanding these arrangements. That would be the Abraham Accords. Okay? So here we have, this is a direct statement from the Heritage Foundation. You know, Heritage Foundation being a think tank that was founded right before the foundation of the Council for National Policy, but they kind of work hand in hand for each other on the right wing of the world order. Okay. So Passing the torch, Heritage announces adoption of Abraham Accord Peace Institute mission, with Robert Greenway serving as chairman. We'll get to who Robert Greenway is in a minute. All right. So this is the combining or the absorption of the Abraham Accord Peace Institute into the Heritage Foundation. And this also places it as a part of ongoing Heritage Foundation's mandate for leadership, Project 2025, which, it does talk about the Abraham Accords positively in Project 2025. So now this is a core tenet of Project 2025, a core tenet of the mandate for leadership through the absorption of the Abraham Accords. This is front and center on Trump's agenda. Okay. The Heritage Foundation will adopt and carry on the mission of the Abraham Peace Institute after Institute's dissolution effective today. So it is dissolved and it is absorbed. It's the Heritage Foundation because it is the platform of the Heritage Foundation. It is their mandate for leadership. It is a major core tenet of Project 2025, and it will likely continue on during the Donald John Trump administration, Antichrist or not. Okay? AAPI was a nonpartisan nonprofit dedicated to support the implementation and expansion of the Abraham Accords, a historic set of agreements between Israel and Arab countries made during the first Trump administration. Well, it's no longer, quote-unquote, bipartisan because they don't need that bipartisanship anymore, okay? Robert Greenway, director of the Allison Center for National Security and the Heritage Foundation, will chair the institute. Heritage President Dr. Kevin Roberts celebrated the announcement. Heritage welcomes the opportunity to carry on the mission of the renowned Abraham Accords Peace Institute. Our organization has an immense positive impacts on regional stability in the Middle East and national security here at home. Under AAPI's unique perspective and network with Heritage's deep policy and security expertise, will advance the peace process in the region for a safer and more prosperous America. So there you go. Prosperity, an allusion to the Theosophical Golden Age, loading terminology going around right there. So there you go. Okay, you literally have this now becoming a focal point of Project 2025. Okay. I thought it would be, but I never saw this directly coming. Okay. Current AAPI leaders Asher Friedman and David Aronson will join Heritage as visiting fellows. Initially founded by President Donald Trump's former senior advisor, Jared Kushner, the organization has been instrumental in promoting the peace deals in the Middle East and ensuring the renewed regional relationships reach their full potential. Heritage's acquisition of the group's initiative and remaining personnel is part of a broader investment into Israel and the region's future, both of which are vital to America's national security. Former senior advisor to the President Trump and founder of AAPI, Jared Kushner, commented, "I'm grateful for the excellent work the Abraham Accords Peace Institute performed to nurture and strengthen the Accords during a period where they were new and most vulnerable. I'm excited to see what the team will accomplish at its new home." Several of the Institute key players have been recruited to join the Trump administration, including AAPI's Ari Lightstone, who will join the team of Special Envoy for Middle East, Steve Witkoff. Lightstone who served as senior advisor to the United States Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. I've covered David Friedman on the channel. 2017 to 2021 added. During the last 4 years, the Abraham Accords Peace Institute has successfully carried out its mission of solidifying and strengthening the Abraham Accords and setting the stage for further expansion. In the early days of the effort, when these relationships were nascent, and the Biden administration refused to recognize the significance or even to call the Accords by their name, were the most challenging. Yeah, is that really true? Our team executed well and helped weave the Accords into the fabric of the Middle East, where the agreements were endured even amid regional conflict. The Trump administration's focus on strengthening and expanding the Accords. The mission of the AAPI as standalone institute is complete, and its primary responsibility of strengthening and expanding the Accords will move to its proper home, the administration. Wow. Several of its data collection functions. Yeah. As well as efforts to coordinate the many complementary and supporting efforts to current administration, will continue under the leadership of Robert Greenway, who helped found the institution. I'd like to thank the board for helping make this progress possible. Dr. Victoria Coates, Vice President of the Catherine and Shelby Colin Davis Institute for National Security and Foreign Policy, the Heritage Foundation, remarked, "It's an honor for Heritage to carry on Jared's trailblazing work to bring security and prosperity to the Middle East through the integration of Israel with America's regional partner and allies. Rob and I look forward to continue close collaboration, his team, and we pursue new opportunities to support peace initiatives in the Middle East and beyond." Robert Greenway, director of the Allison Center for National Security at the Heritage Foundation, former president and executive director of the AAPI, concluded, "It was a tremendous honor and privilege to have been part of Trump's administration team that negotiated the Abraham Accords and helped guide the AAPI from its foundation. Since the signing of the Accords in 2020, the AAPI has connected people and organizations between the Abraham Accords countries and tracked its progress. While identifying opportunities and challenges, it's a privilege to continue its vital work." Background. Heritage Foundation remains committed to expanding and strengthening normalization efforts in the Middle East. In addition to its latest acquisition, even though they're calling war for Iran, right? Peace through strength, huh? Heritage has recently added its first international-based senior research fellow in Jerusalem, Eugene Kontorovich, and senior policy analyst for the Middle East and North African, Daniel Flesch. So here's Robert Greenway's kind of bio at the Heritage Foundation. Robert Greenway is the director of the Allison Center for National Security of the Heritage Foundation, which he is responsible for the development of policies to promote a strong national defense, safeguarding American freedom and prosperity. He previously served as the president and executive director of the Abraham Accords Peace Institute, which advocates for strengthening and expanding historical agreements he helped forge. Rob has more than 30 years in experience of public service, culminating as a senior U.S. government official responsible for developing, coordinating, and implementing U.S. government policy for all of the Middle East and North Africa on the National Security Council. Prior to service on the NSC, he served as a senior intelligence officer in Defense Intelligence Agency and a combat veteran of the United States Army Special Forces. Spec Ops guy. Okay. So, they're going to go over his military expertise. I'm going to cover that a little bit in his LinkedIn here. Here we have, he's been working for the Heritage Foundation for 1 year and 9 months. He used to be he's director of the Allison Center for National Security. He used to be director for Center for National Defense under the Heritage Foundation, and senior advisor to Vice President Heritage Foundation, Davis Institute for National Security. He has been Abraham Accords Peace Institute President and Executive Director from May 2021 to August 2023. He was also a adjunct fellow of the Hudson Institute, major right-wing conservative think tank. Okay. National Security Council, White House Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Middle Eastern and North African Affairs from May 2017 to January 2021. Senior Intelligence Officer with the Defense Intelligence Agency, Special Force Officer, U.S. Army JFK Special Warfare School and Center, June 2007 to October 2010. Special Forces Battalion Commander, 1st Battalion, 1st Special Warfare Training Group Airborne, Group Executive Officer, 1st Special Warfare Training Group Airborne. Okay, so there you go. Spec Ops guy, Spec Ops Officer, Special Forces. There you go. So he's trained in psychological warfare. Critical conversation with the Vineyard Chabad. The Chabad of Martha's Vineyard, a nonprofit organization with a nonpartisan Jewish community, is hosting several nights of critical conversation with the inaugural Jewish Speaker Series. Okay, so let's see here. Next, Daniel Shapiro, former U.S. Ambassador to Israel, and Robert Greenway, President and Executive Director of the Abraham Accords Peace Institute, will speak about the future of the Abraham Accords and with the bipartisan interests continued by the Biden administration. This took place on August 17th as moderated by Gabby Dutch with Jewish Insider. Okay, so we have Robert Greenway working with and speaking directly to Chabad and the bipartisanship interests of the Abraham Accords. The Biden Institute, this is August 3rd, 2022. Abraham Accords Peace Institute celebrates the second anniversary of the Abraham Accords. On September 12th, the Abraham Accords Peace Institute co-hosted with the American First Policy Institute an event commemorating the second anniversary of the signing of the Accords, celebrating progress made the last year and discussing opportunities for increased multilateral cooperation. The event featured a fireside chat with Jared Kushner, an expert panel on the progress made in 2 years of the agreement, featuring Robert O'Brien, the 28th National Security Advisor, John Racoletta Jr., the former U.S. Ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, Carlos Sands, we'll get to her in a minute, Vice Chair of AAPI Center for Energy and Environment, and former U.S. Ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark. What? And Auburn's men basketball's head coach Bruce Pearl, a champion of the Abraham Accords. So Senator Joni Ernst, a member of the Abraham Accord caucus, concluded the event. Abraham Accords 2 years later, economic cooperation and cultural exchange flourishing. Jared Kushner called the Abraham Accords a combination of the right people at the right places at the right time working together. Two organizations with many former Trump administration officials joined together on the Monday to celebrate the second anniversary of the Abraham Accords. Though over the years proven even more durable and consequential than many expected when signed under former President Donald Trump. The Accords created the first war and peace between Israel, United Emirates, and Bahrain, and the agreement growing quickly to include Morocco and Sudan, and flowering of economic and person-to-person exchanges over the years. Participation of the events was co-sponsored by Abraham Accords Peace Institute and the American First Policy Institute, and held at AAPI's Washington, D.C. office, recounted how the agreement came to be from the insider's perspective. Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner, who led the successful effort towards the Accords, was interviewed by AAPI CEO Brooks Rollins. Kushner called the Abraham Accords a combination of the right people at the right places at the right time working together, referring to the Trump administration's officials as well as leaders from the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and Israel who worked on the effort. Kushner recently released his book, Breaking History, a White House Memoir. So that part of what got the administration to achieve the Accords was outsiders' perspective of some of these key players in the Trump administration. Because I had no experience in diplomacy, I thought they were both an asset and my liability right there. What I did is for the first year, I really was trying to meet with all the people who worked on it before and try to get their perspectives. Kushner told Rollins, who is a former Trump administration staffer, what I found was that people may have thought once I got going and once I was doing it the wrong way, I was pretty convinced that they were all doing it the wrong way. And I think they've achieved a very similar result, which is constantly going back to the same issues in the same ways they were constantly failing. Instead, he said the administration decided to focus on common interests of the nations. Notice there wasn't a channel for Arabs and Israelis to have a connection to truly understand each other. Kushner said he believes the Abraham Accords are reducing the hostility that has existed in the region for more than 70 years, so restoring the ability for Muslims, Jews, and Christians to live together in harmony, to meet each other, have a dinner together, do business, and talk. He pointed out when the Trump administration came into office, ISIS had a caliphate the size of Ohio. Iran was being provided $150 billion through the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action to fund its malign activities in the region. Syria was still in a civil war, and Libya and Yemen were still unstable. 5 years later, the region has become one of the most exciting in the world economically, he said. The young generation were worried about being radicalized by extremists is now being inspired by leadership to build startup companies to figure out how to make the region and the world much better, said Kushner. So I do think that paradigms can shift, but it takes people with courage and determination to stick it to it in order for them to make that happen. In the lobby outside the event space, a table including stacks of Kushner's book for attendees to take. The audience include guests of former Trump administration officials, think tank scholars, and politicians. A large constitution of ambassadors, including United Arab Emirates, ambassador to the United Nations, Youssef Al-Otaba, Israeli Ambassador Michael Herzog, and ambassadors from Egypt, Hungary, Finland, and Romania. A few Biden administration members were also in attendance, including Deputy Special Envoy to Monitor and Combat Anti-Semitism, Aaron Kayak. So, more on the American First Policy Institute real quick. Some people that you can see were a major part of it was CMP Larry Kudlow, were also part of the Trump administration as well, too, a lot of them. You have CMP Chad Wolf. You have, this is kind of like a newer, kind of like who's a part of it currently right now, right? You have CMP Kellyanne Conway. You have CMP Bobby Jindal. You have CMP Dr. Elveda King. Here's Carla Sands, more on her in a little bit. You have Matthew Whitaker. You have Paula White Cain, who is head of Trump's Faith Institute, who is New Apostolic Reformation heretic. Okay. And Robert Wilkie as well, too. Co-chair for Center for American Security. And then let's see here. You have their advisors. Can't see if anybody offhand that I recognize. And then former AAPI people. And remember, they're working hand in hand. American First Policy Institute is working hand in hand with the Abraham Accords Institute, okay, which is not America First. I mean, America First doesn't mean anything, okay. So, the Honorable CMP Linda McMahon, who is currently Secretary of Trump Education. The Honorable Pam Bondi, right, who's possibly a Scientologist, who's Trump's current Attorney General. Okay. The Honorable Doug Collins, CMP Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, the Honorable Lee Zeldin, the ardent Zionist who ran for governor in New York State. Okay. So major CMP conservatives, Heritage Foundation members, and stuff like that. Here's kind of like a list going back of one of the earliest lists that I could pull of people that were in it as well. Just looking to see if I can find anybody who would be of importance that's still not part of it now. Not that I can see offhand, but I'm probably missing some people when I'm just scrolling through, looking. Oh, CMP, the former governor of Texas, Rick Perry. CMP, Honorable Rick Perry. Paula King White's been a member for a long time. Yeah, that's about it. I probably missed some people that other people may recognize, but there you go. So, and then we have Robert Greenway here, who re-truthed this New York Post or reposted this New York Post article, not re-truthed. Jared Kushner nominated for the Nobel Prize for negotiator role. So again, Jared Kushner nominated for Nobel Prize as Abraham Accords negotiator, which he did not win. Then you have here within the 2025 Project 2025 mandate for leadership, you have Russ Vought writing about the Executive Office of the President of the United States believing in unitary executive theory, and Greenway being authors noted here by Voigt, as special thanks to him contributing on the chapter, meaning he is pro-executive, unitary executive theory, that the president should have the power, most power of all the branches of government. You have the executive, you have the legislative, and you have the judicial. So there you go. And then Robert Greenway is also giving a special shout out as a contributor to Project 2025. And then in finish, very interesting thing about Carla Sands, right, who was the ambassador to Denmark under the first Trump administration. Her, in a 2025 interview, advocated U.S. aggression against Denmark, a founding member of NATO, told Trump to get Greenland, and claimed that Denmark had not been a good NATO ally, and she was the original first Trump administration ambassador to Greenland. So you got the connections to Greenland, Project 2025, talking about Greenland. It's been discussed in the CNP since the late 1980s, which later was adopted by Council for National Policy member and Jesuit Patrick J. Buchanan about America acquiring Greenland. So it seems to be something that's being pushed forward by the CNP and Heritage Foundation for decades. Okay, so I really don't understand what Trump getting Greenland has any connections to the Abraham Peace Accords. But all right, there's probably going to be some more on this later as I dig into some more names. Take care, everyone. God bless, and realize that this could be major if the Abraham Accords peace treaty turns out to be the Antichrist's covenant of many nations, of the false peace covenant. So we'll see. If Donald Trump is the Antichrist. Take care. God bless.